Chapter 1. Because of an arranged childhood engagement, I was forced to marry a mechanic. The mechanic looked fierce, had a bad temper, no ambition, and always said I was spoiled and hard to please. I hated him. I preferred my gentle and considerate foster brother. But later, when my foster brother plotted to take my family's fortune and joined hands with my best friend to kill me, it was only the mechanic who went mad seeking revenge for me. Covered in blood and grime, he carefully wiped his hands clean before approaching my grave. With red eyes, he sneered, "You'll probably scold me for being filthy again." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I had shouted about divorcing him. Beside me, my so-called best friend was persuading me to leave him and choose my foster brother. I recorded her words and sent them to the mechanic. "If someone trying to seduce your wife and make a fool of you, are you going to do something about it?" His name was Ethan Shu, a mechanic. In every way, he was not a match for me. But because of a drunken verbal promise between our elders, I was married to him. Of course, I was resentful, especially since he was fierce, bad-tempered, and seemed content with staying at the bottom. He always clicked his tongue, frowned, and said, "So spoiled. Impossible to keep." That made me want to hit him. So after marriage, I refused to let him touch me and constantly shouted about divorce. But Ethan, who was never known for patience, endured it all. I thought he was only coveting my family's money. But now, looking at the chat window that still hadn't shown a reply, I couldn't help but want to see him. Memories of my last life rushed back. After death, I saw everything he did. He was madly in love with me. My eyes stung red, my chest ached dully. Ethan lived in a tiny rental room next to the auto shop, because we had quarreled, and in anger, I had driven him out. On the way, I rehearsed how I would apologize and treat him better from now on. But when I couldn't reach him by phone and nearly got drenched outside the repair shop, he stormed out in fury. "You're crazy enough to come argue with me in the rain now?" He shoved an umbrella into my hand, wrapped me in his jacket, then simply scooped me up. When he was mad, his words were harsh. I bit my lip, then blurted, "You're the crazy one." Yet I stayed quietly in his arms. All I could smell was the mix of tobacco and gasoline clinging to him. In the past, I would have screamed at him to put me down. But this time, I stayed still, uncomfortable, but drawing closer against his chest. His body went rigid. Ethan's rental room was small and shabby. After putting me down, he realized he had grabbed the wrong jacket. Irritated, he scratched his head, then pulled out a clean one to spread on the bed. "Go shower," he said stiffly. He wore only a thin white tank top, soaked through and clinging to his solid muscles. But it was already autumn. Feeling guilty, I clutched the jacket tighter. "You go first." Aside from getting a little wet earlier, I was fine. He had shielded me with the umbrella, letting himself be completely drenched. Ethan stayed silent for a long time, then let out a dry laugh. "You're planning to divorce me by saying I made you sick because I didn't take care of you?" I froze. His features were handsome, but combined, his face looked like that of a gangster boss. I was always a little afraid of him. Now I had nothing to say, because that was exactly the kind of excuse I would have used. He smirked faintly, then closed his eyes as if conceding. "Fine, go shower. You're spoiled, and if you fall sick, it's just more trouble for others. As for divorce, don't worry, if you really don't like me, I won't force you. No need to make yourself miserable." "No, that's not what I meant." As he turned away, I panicked and grabbed his arm, the jacket slipping off my shoulders. "Let's shower together." The words slipped out before I realized how ambiguous they sounded. Ethan gave me a startled, almost mischievous look. My face heated. I quickly pulled the jacket snap. "Don't look!" He chuckled softly, but the smile soon faded. "Using beauty tricks now, to push me into divorce?" he said lazily. His mockery stung, but I swallowed my temper. Instead, I pulled out my phone and played the recording. My so-called best friend's words filled the small room. Ethan's shoulders stiffened. His hand at his side curled into a fist, then slowly loosened. "I know what you're," he began, but his words were cut off by the voice message I had sent him earlier. "If someone is trying to seduce your wife and put a green hat on you, are you going to do something about it?" He turned sharply, disbelief flashing in his eyes. It was the first time I had openly admitted being his wife. Tears welled as I whispered, "Ethan, you didn't even read my messages, did you?" He scratched his nose awkwardly, avoiding my gaze. I said I won't divorce you anymore. You don't believe me either, right? My voice broke, tinged with sobs. His dark eyes lingered on me, unreadable. He didn't speak, but his silence was its own answer. Of course he didn't believe me. After all, I had done nothing but reject him since our marriage. Even if I hadn't truly hated him, I had pretended to, just to push for divorce. So his mistrust was only natural. But still, the sting of it hurt. I clung to his arm stubbornly. This time I really won't divorce you. It was my fault before. I'll treat you better from now on. I had never said anything like this before. My cheeks burned as I shut my eyes and blurted everything out. Please believe me. Ethan neither pulled away nor replied. Just as I was about to push further, my phone rang. I moved to hang up, but Ethan answered instead. What if it's important? He said. A familiar gentle voice came through. Sleepy, I'm back. Don't worry, I'll take care of that man for you. It was my foster brother, Louis Shen. Ethan's face darkened instantly. My heart plummeted. Before Louis could continue, I cut him off. You're mistaken. I don't need your help. I looked straight into Ethan's cold gaze, then bit my lip hard. I love Ethan. In this life, I'll never marry anyone else. No divorce, till death do us part. Strangely, as I said it, relief swept over me. I hung up, only for Ethan to toss a clean shirt at me. Go shower, he rasped, his expression unreadable. I was pushed into the bathroom. It still smelled faintly of his body wash. He must have been bathing before I arrived. All my worries about proving myself faded under the heat and steam. Memories from my past life flooded back. The nights I had watched him from beyond death, alone in this shower, bracing himself against the wall, whispering my name over and over in a broken voice. The memory left me trembling. I cursed him softly under my breath. I tried to calm myself with the shower, but, Ethan? I called. What? His voice was lazy, close by. The apartment was tiny. I hesitated, then mumbled, the shower head's broken? Silence. Then the door handle turned slightly, only to stop. Claire, he said evenly, using my given name. My self-control isn't that strong, especially after what you just said. If I come in, I'll take it as your consent. His words jolted me. Once in anger, I had warned him never to touch me without my permission. Back then, desperate for money for his mother's treatment, he had agreed. Since our wedding night, he had never touched me. Now, he was waiting. I looked down at my wet dress, clinging half-transparent to my skin. My heart pounded. When I stayed silent too long, Ethan let go of the handle. I already called someone to pick you up. The towels are clean. Dry off, change, and leave. Send me the divorce papers when you're ready. I'll talk to the old man. But stay away from Louis. He's no good for you. His voice was calm, stripped of emotion. Anger flared hot inside me. Divorce again. He had refused it before, but now he was pushing me away. Before I knew it, I yanked the bathroom door open and glared at him. If I can handle you, why couldn't I handle Louis? If you're a real man, shut up and come in. Ethan didn't move. His gaze deepened, then he laughed. You're right. If you can handle me, Louis doesn't stand a chance. My face froze. The bathroom was steaming hot. His hand cradling the back of my head burned against my skin, while the cold tiles made me shiver. A soft sigh escaped him. So spoiled, Ethan muttered hoarsely. The next second, I was pressed fully into his arms. The broken shower suddenly came to life, warm water cascading down over us. I heard his muffled chuckle, certain he thought I'd just used the shower as an excuse. But all I could do was cling to his shoulders. Ethan, I gasped, dizzy, holding onto his head desperately. He warned lazily, this place doesn't have good soundproofing. That shut me up quick. Trembling, I buried myself against him. Not bad. You're not sick. Still strong, he teased, his laughter low. Hold tighter. I didn't understand his meaning until he lifted me effortlessly. My head spun like I was a boat tossed in a storm, no escape in sight. It was as rough and overwhelming as before. The heat blurred my mind, and in panic I tugged at his hair, only to make him fiercer. No. Something wasn't right. My vision dimmed. I wanted to push him away, but my limbs were weak. Damn, did she just faint from kissing? He cursed under his breath. Nonsense, it was just too hot in here. I tried to argue, but darkness swallowed me. I woke up feverish, and Ethan took the blame. My old butler scolded him harshly for being careless. Ethan's face grew dark with impatience. The moment I stirred awake, I stubbornly grabbed his arm with trembling hands. Again. Kiss me again. I had to prove I hadn't fainted from that. Ethan clicked his tongue. The butler stared at me in shock, one side of his face screaming, looking foolishly infatuated, the other shamelessly desperate. Embarrassed, I bowed my head but didn't let go. In the end, Ethan caught my hand and pressed it against his chest a few times. His lips curled faintly. Touching's enough. Get better first. The butler's disapproval deepened. Humiliated and angry, I glared at Ethan. He just turned to the butler to complain. She's batting her eyes at me. You'd better discipline her. You know I'm young and weak to temptation. Those were the butler's exact words when he used to scold him. The old man's face froze. Young miss, expressionless, I pinched Ethan hard. He only laughed, his voice carrying a strange undertone. Quite the appetite, huh? Ready for a meal? The butler rushed to order porridge, but I knew that wasn't what he meant. Shameless rogue. Still, oddly enough, I felt relieved. At least nothing had truly happened yet. Chapter 2. Perhaps because I'd been reborn with heavy thoughts, the fever hit hard this time. For days, my temperature wouldn't drop. Ethan stayed by my side to care for me. You're such a handful, he muttered, frowning as he propped me up. Open your mouth. Medicine. I noticed the dark circles under his eyes. Silently, I swallowed the medicine in one gulp. Suspicion flashed across his face, then he chuckled. Well, my spoiled princess has grown up. In the past, I always threw tantrums when forced to take medicine, demanding to be coaxed. But Ethan never knew how to coax. That was one of the many reasons I disliked him. Now guilt pricked me. He had stayed awake for days just to care for me. You should sleep a little, I whispered. He raised a brow. Sleep? Yes, all right. Without hesitation, he lifted the quilt and lay down beside me. A firm weight tightened around my waist. I froze, instinctively trying to push him away, not because of the closeness, but, go shower first. Every time I enter your room, I scrub myself clean inside and out. His eyes stayed shut, voice drowsy. His hand patted my waist naturally. Don't move, I really need sleep. I went rigid, not daring to shift. But soon enough, Ethan, I hissed, flustered. Didn't you say you were tired? He didn't even open his eyes. I can't help it. Don't worry, I'll pace myself. So brazen. I turned my back to him angrily, eyes shut tight. But before I drifted off, I faintly felt him slip his hand into mine. A quiet chuckle. Shh, that's all it takes to wear you out. I was woken by the sound of someone crying. Sleepy, you scared me half to death this time. It was Yvonne An, my so-called best friend, her eyes red with tears. Beside her stood Louis Shen, my foster brother. His brows were furrowed. You've lost so much weight, he said reproachfully. Once, I would have poured out my grievances to these two closest people without hesitation. But now, all I could see were the images of my past life, being locked away by Louis, forced to be his shameful mistress, then tormented by Yvonne's jealousy. So I simply shut my eyes. I'm fine, but you're disturbing my rest. Meanwhile, I thought furiously about what to do. The recording I'd sent my grandfather earlier had raised some doubt about Louis, but not enough. Louis was too skilled at pretending. After all, he was my grandfather's foster son. How could I truly expose his wolfish ambition? As I pondered, Louis sighed softly and reached out to pat my head with familiar affection. Blaming your brother for coming back too late? My body recoiled in instinctive disgust. Don't touch me. In my movement, the collar of my nightgown slipped, revealing a faint mark on my skin. Louis's expression darkened instantly. He hurt you? Yvonne's gaze sharpened with a flash of jealousy. I turned my head away coldly. Get out. They didn't think it strange. I had always been temperamental, especially when sick. Louis soothed me a bit more before leaving, but Yvonne shamelessly stayed. She bit her lip, then suddenly asked, Sleepy, I heard you fainted because of Ethan. Is he really that good? Her eyes flickered with shyness. Her words were wrong, very wrong. I stared at her, but she quickly covered with a frown. He forced you, didn't he? You never liked him touching you. You must have faked fainting just to avoid him. Faked fainting? I echoed. You don't need to hide it from me. I know your personality better than anyone. She smiled knowingly, leaning closer. Back in high school, even when you had your period and a fever, you still ran the 800 meters just because Louis said he wanted to see you win first place. You didn't faint then. But now, because of Ethan, you fainted? For Louis, you endured everything. But for Ethan, her words poured out in a sharp stream, making my guard rise. All along, I'd thought Yvonne only had eyes for Louis. After all, she married him in my past life. But now, her tone revealed something else. Was she actually interested in Ethan? I forced myself to play along, to draw out more of her thoughts. I didn't notice that Luis, when leaving, had left the door ajar. One thought burned in my chest. So that's it. This fake best friend has her eyes on my man. Rage suffocated me. I deliberately provoked her until she left crying. But even that didn't cool my fury. All I could think was that I had to warn Ethan to stay far away from her. And he'd better dress properly, so not a single bit of him could be seen by that snake. But when I asked the servants, they said Ethan had returned to his rental place. He said he's running a fever too, and didn't want to pass it to you. A fever? Worry prickled in me, mixed with unease. He'd looked fine last night. But even the butler confirmed his face had been flushed when he left. Pushing the doubts aside, excitement sparked in me. I was going to take care of a sick Ethan myself. Ethan wasn't honestly resting in his rental. When I found him, he was squatting by a car tire, a cigarette dangling from his lips, wrench in hand. Beside him stood a curvy beauty with wavy hair. Whatever he said made her giggle behind her hand. My alarm bells rang. When I walked over, she gave me a sidelong glance, then winked at Ethan. Call me later, okay? He nodded lazily. My chest tightened with anger. Ethan. He finally looked up, as if only now noticing me. What are you doing here? His voice was hoarse, tinged with a cold. I remembered he was sick and instantly softened. You have a fever. Why aren't you resting? Oh, he muttered, eyes back on the tire. Gotta work, save money, otherwise some spoiled princess might say I can't even support my wife. Those were my own cruel words from before. I crouched down, speaking seriously. Then I'll support you. He froze. The wrench slipped from his hand. I picked it up and pressed it back to him. If you really like fixing cars, I won't stop you. My family's wealthy enough, I can provide for you. I knew, in my past life, Ethan eventually built his own empire, but I also knew he hated the false masks of business society. Still, instead of gratitude, his face darkened. He sneered. So I'll just be your kept man. That's not what I... Save it. He cut me off. If you want to repay me for looking after you, just give me money. Something was wrong. Before I could argue, my phone rang. It was Grandpa. Claire, his stern voice carried unusual compromise. I agreed to your divorce with Ethan. I froze, eyes widening, only to meet Ethan's calm, unsurprised gaze. Grandpa's words struck me. I didn't expect you to resist him so much. Since you've lived together this long and still can't love him, and even want Louis to help, you should divorce. After Ethan's mother's surgery, separate. No point torturing each other. No, Grandpa. I tried desperately to explain, but he cut me off and hung up. I even heard Louis's voice in the background. He must have said something. This was nothing like my past life. Back then, Grandpa never approved of divorce. Had my rebirth changed everything? Panic squeezed my chest. Would Louis and Yvonne's schemes also happen earlier this time? Happy now? Ethan washed his hands, then frowned at my broken fingernail, prying open my clenched fist gently. You used too much force. I finally found my voice. Did you say something to Grandpa? He didn't deny it. Instead, he asked flatly, Isn't this what you always wanted? But I had already told him I wouldn't divorce, that I'd treat him better. Why didn't he remember? Tears burned in my eyes. Tone down your spoiled temper, he continued coolly. Not many men could stand it. So you can't stand it either? He paused, brow twitching. He neither admitted nor denied. Guess I ruined your life. Should have resisted longer and never touched you. He muttered it quietly, like to himself. But I heard. The sting deepened. Furious and hurt, I grabbed his arm. Come home with me. This isn't right. He didn't move. The man you like wouldn't be happy. He dragged the last words deliberately, but I didn't catch the meaning, so I ordered the bodyguards to carry him back. He didn't resist. Fine, but forced love never tastes sweet, he said. Forced love indeed was bitter. I locked Ethan in my room that night. No matter the chaos, his gaze stayed calm. He even repeated my old excuse. Normal physical reaction, I can't control it. I'd confiscated his phone, but it rang anyway. The caller was that woman. Her name was Sophie Wu. Like the socialite Sophia Lin, she was a dazzling beauty. I remembered how Sophia mocked my lack of curves. Back then I could argue back. Now, shame gnawed at me. So I put on a revealing nightgown and walked to Ethan. But he only caught my hand mid-gesture, his voice low and rough. Don't. His stern face frightened me. I froze, heart sinking. I couldn't really imprison him. His mother was still in the hospital, so I went with him to care for her. Only in front of her did he act like his old self. Back home, he turned cold again. I told myself this was my debt from the last life, now being repaid. But when he avoided even a kiss, my courage faltered. Grandpa had made up his mind. This is what you always wanted. Divorce then. Don't toy with him. Louis stood nearby, giving me a gentle, tolerant look. Sleepy, wouldn't it be better to come back to me? Disgust churned in my gut. But Grandpa trusted Louis, stubborn as ever, blind to his betrayal. For the first time I realized Ethan was right. I had been spoiled. Without the Shen family name, I was nothing. So that night, I freed him. I even gave him a large sum of money. If he no longer loved me, at least he could live well. He didn't deserve these storms. I convinced myself of that, ignoring the hollow ache inside. Ethan stared at the bank card, his eyes shadowed. Really given up? He asked. I snapped, sourness in my tone. What does it matter? Don't you already have someone else? He didn't deny it. All right, he said, gaze sharp as a hawk. Just don't regret it, princess. I turned away, forcing indifference. Get lost. He left, cleanly, without looking back. I tried to numb myself with study. Since rebirth, I'd begun to dabble in business. Grandpa didn't stop me, even assigned people to guide me. But I wasn't a prodigy. Numbers and deals baffled me. Even Sophia Lin, who usually disliked me, couldn't help but comment, "No need to force it. The Shen family won't fall to the point of relying on you." Meanwhile, Yvonne seized the chance to get close to Ethan. I had my people trail her, gathering plenty of evidence of her seduction attempts. We weren't divorced yet. Ethan was still my husband. So I released the evidence, then staged a fit of betrayal madness, slapping Yvonne hard. I even squeezed some compensation projects from her family. But Sophia discovered my methods. "The detective you hired knows my fiancé," she said, handing me a sealed envelope. "You didn't clean up properly. Too young." I swallowed my pride and thanked her. To my surprise, she warmed to me. Slowly, we even became friends. In truth, we'd never had deep enmity. In my past life, after the Shen family fell, she was the only one who tried to help me, though Louis stopped her. On her advice, I realized there were countless ways to deal with Yvonne. "You call it pride. Others call it hypocrisy," she scoffed. "If you lowered yourself, what couldn't you achieve?" Her words hit home. Soon, scandal erupted. Yvonne had slept with her own brother-in-law. I'd only dropped a hint to her sister. I hadn't expected Yvonne to be so desperate, even throwing herself at an old man. Her sister retaliated fiercely, and Yvonne ended up insane, locked in a mental hospital, just as she had once arranged for me. I even instructed the staff to take special care of her. For that, I owed Sophia gratitude. But she never missed a chance to tease. One day, she leaned close, eyes gleaming. "I hear your ex-husband has some charm. Already linked with the female CEO of M Group. As the abandoned wife, Claire Shen, any comments?" Her words cut deep. I forced myself not to ask about him. All I knew was he had quit the auto shop. His path was now hidden from me. I deliberately avoided asking about Ethan. The only times I saw him were when I accompanied him to visit his mother at the hospital. Other than that, our lives ran like two parallel lines, close, but never meeting. The next time we crossed paths was at a business banquet. The man who used to wear nothing but tank tops and shorts now stood in a tailored suit. He carried himself with sharp authority. The wives and young ladies around us couldn't stop staring, but when their eyes shifted to the woman at his side, their smiles turned mocking. It was Sophie Wu, the so-called female CEO. "Lost," Sophia Lin murmured beside me, sizing Sophie up. "Lost completely in that department. But don't worry, it can be trained. I'll take you to book a few male models later." Ethan stood not far away, and I thought he glanced over. Panic surged, and I tugged Sophia away. She clicked her tongue. "What are you afraid of? He's out here flaunting his new love, but you can't hire a few models?" I couldn't admit it. I had been shaken by the look in his eyes. Sophia was dragged away by her fiancé, while Louis tried to approach me with his fake smile. I quickly turned aside, only to see Ethan carefully shielding Sophie from a passing cart. I forced myself to focus on business, but a reckless thought stuck in my mind. One day, when I became a CEO too, I'd hire male models, Ethan's type, just to make him choke on it. Chapter 3. This banquet was my trial. Grandpa had announced me as Shen family's heir. I was stunned by the decision. In my past life, it had never happened. Louis's mask nearly cracked, though he recovered fast. Congratulations, Sleepy, but from now on you must be more responsible. No more childish temper. Grandpa must have believed some of my warnings about Louis. Still, he entrusted him with a major project. I buried my doubts and studied harder. Now came the test. I greeted our longtime allies and sought out rising talents. In my distraction, I drank too much. When my vision blurred, Ethan suddenly pulled me onto a balcony. I blinked up at him. "Why are we here?" He tugged at his tie impatiently. "Didn't you see that bastard's hand about to touch your waist?" Really? I tried to remember. The man had only leaned close when Ethan dragged me away. "Wait, Ethan?" Anger flared. "What does it matter to you?" I didn't dare say the rest. "You already have someone else to care for." He laughed bitterly, stripped off his jacket, and my gaze fell to his bare arm. A black armband accentuated his tight muscles. My eyes drifted lower, catching a glimpse of his shirt clips. "You want to look?" he teased, eyebrow raised. I stupidly nodded before regaining composure. "Sophie must like it, huh?" He held an unlit cigarette, smirking. "Jealous?" I glared fiercely. "We're still married. Control yourself. I won't let others laugh at me because of you." "Then you are jealous." He leaned closer, eyes locked on mine. "Claire?" His voice was low. "You glare like that, and you wake my brothers up." "What?" "Crazy," I snapped, but tears welled up. Why was he still toying with me? He hadn't softened even after I gave him everything. Seeing my tears, he panicked. "Sorry, I was joking." His gentleness broke me. My tears fell harder. "You're my ancestor," he muttered, then scooped me into his lap. I gasped, struggling. "Someone will see." The balcony was curtained, shielding us from view. He caught my hand, pressing it against his chest. Slowly, he kissed the tears from my face. "You're like a dog," I hissed. "Woof," he whispered against my ear. "Should I get you a leash?" "Not afraid Sophie will dump you?" He sighed. "Ancestor, that's my sister. Real sister, household registry and all." I froze. He even pulled out the proof. Who carried their family registry to a banquet? He must have planned this. My social duties weren't finished, but Louis was stuck with Sophie, unable to approach me. I slipped out of the banquet first. Not long after, Ethan sneaked into my car like a thief. Neither of us spoke until we reached my apartment. From the doorway to the sofa, clothes scattered across the floor. I felt breathless, ready to kick him away. But he caught my wrist, dropped to one knee, and pressed his burning breath against me. "Ethan," I gasped, furious. "Go shower." "I don't mind," he murmured, husky with desire. "Saves you the trouble of kicking me later." "I mind." He stilled and actually showered. But the armband and shirt clip stayed on. I glared. "Take them off." "Why bother? I'll just have to shower again later." "Shut up!" He was lying. In my past life, I'd seen it hadn't lasted this long. Grinding my teeth, I cursed. Enough! How could it ever be enough? He kissed the corner of my eye, voice harsh yet tender. "Back in high school, even sick and bleeding, you ran 800 meters without fainting, just to please Louis. Don't tell me this is harder." The words pierced me. It was the same story Yvonne had told him. He had been listening. "You eavesdropped?" I demanded, yanking his hair. "They wanted me to hear," he said simply, catching my hand and entwining our fingers. He rubbed his nose against mine, coaxing. "Ancestor, don't glare anymore." "Get out," I snapped. I woke to a recording playing. "You said Claire Shen is the head of the household." "Ancestor, you've always been the head of the household." "Say it properly." "Claire Shen is the head of the household." "Again, say Ethan Shu loves Claire Shen." Silence. Then a man's low laugh. "You really want me to say it?" "Yes." "Fine. Ethan loves Claire. From the moment he saw her, he wanted her in his bed for life." Subtle. Compared to the things he whispered last night, this was reserved. "Good. Now I can touch you," my drunken voice said in the recording. "Touch where?" Rustling sounds followed. Moments later, my own tipsy cries filled the air. "Call me master." "You like that? Master? Easy, ancestor, bite lighter." The rest was unlistenable. Face blank, I buried my head under the blanket, pretending nothing had happened, but Ethan mercilessly yanked it away, grinning. "Still sore?" he teased, the words carrying double meaning. At first, I couldn't adjust to Ethan's absence. He had taken such meticulous care of me that life without him felt unbearable. I forced myself to train in self-defense for women, but the practice was painful. Worse, I ran into Ethan at the hospital with Sophie Wu by his side. That night, under Sophia Lynn's egging, I drank too much. My knee injury ached and I cried bitterly. Through the haze, someone carried me, coaxing me softly. I thought I was dreaming. But the next morning, Ethan had recorded everything. Delete it. I lunged for his phone. He caught me easily, pulling me into his arms. Rage boiled in me. He pressed me down with one arm, smirking. Delete the part where I said you're head of the household too? I froze. He laughed and kissed my flushed cheek. Relax, I know you care about face. I was going to delete it anyway. I snorted, not believing him. He could fool ghosts, not me. I'm not lying. His sharp eyes saw through me. He added with a sly grin, funny how someone so lustful still peeks when I shower. My breath caught. I widened my eyes in shock, a bold realization dawning. Now then, he murmured, tightening his hold. Ready to listen to me properly? Ethan had been reborn too, but later than me. When I realized I wasn't crippled, I guessed something had changed, he admitted. He'd uncovered evidence of Louis's schemes and handed it to Grandpa. I gaped. So you and Grandpa tricked me together? That old man wanted to see how far you could go after one lifetime of loss, Ethan said, half aggrieved. He nipped at my ear in warning. Stop moving, you'll hurt yourself. I huffed but withdrew my hand. You're his only granddaughter. Louis was supposed to pave the way for you. Who knew his ambition would grow so wild? Ethan massaged my sore waist gently. Grandpa never expected you to carry the Shen family alone. He just didn't want outsiders stealing it. I thought of all my shortcomings in business and felt guilty. Then I remembered something. Your sister. I told you about my family before our wedding. His grip tightened angrily, though he still held back. Shame burned my cheeks. He had indeed shown me a family photo once. His beautiful sister had gone missing in a car accident. But I hadn't cared back then. I leaned in to kiss him, murmuring, I was wrong, don't be mad. He caught me, kissing me thoroughly. She was rescued, lost her memory, and taken abroad. Later she inherited her late husband's business. I only learned that in my last life. His gaze softened. But by then, you were already gone. I froze. He didn't mean the moment of my death. He meant the time after, when my spirit vanished. When did you notice me? I whispered. After I avenged you, after I told you at your grave. He smiled faintly, playing with my hand. When I came back, I found a little tail following me. Sudden clarity struck me. No wonder he'd grown more flamboyant in dress and manner. I'd thought he'd fallen for someone else. You did it on purpose, I glared at him. You even got jealous of my secretary. What else could I do? He chuckled, but the smile soon faded. If I'd known you'd disappear later, I'd rather you stayed jealous forever. My chest ached. I awkwardly hugged his head, whispering, Don't be sad, I'm here now. But my thoughts darkened. How devastated must he have been when I vanished last time? The air grew heavy with tenderness until he suddenly teased, You'll need more training. Forget male models, I'm enough. Any more and your little body won't survive. Ethan, I fumed. His mouth needed to be sealed. Ethan said Grandpa didn't want him becoming another Louis. So he had to prove himself. And I had to grow quickly too, without relying on anyone. Besides, he added, I want to know what you truly feel. I narrowed my eyes. And if I didn't love you? If I'd found someone else while you were away? His expression stiffened. Then he muttered carelessly, Then you'd never get out of bed again. My waist was still sore. I bit him in fury. But Louis is cautious now, Ethan continued, face grim. He's cleaned up his tracks. My earlier evidence won't be enough to destroy him. Even the project Grandpa gave him, he didn't take the bait. There's another way, I said quietly. Almost no one knew about Louis's twisted obsession with me. Only Yvonne, who schemed with him, knew the truth. Ethan clearly didn't. When I told him, his face hardened, his body radiating killing intent. You don't need to dirty your hands with that trash. I quickly stopped him, kissing him in reassurance. The things from my past life won't happen again, I swear it. He grunted in response. Whether he believed me or not, I couldn't tell. Louis didn't show his hand for a long while. Grandpa gradually relaxed, while I pushed myself to adapt faster. Ethan quietly investigated behind the scenes. Sometimes he disappeared for days, returning with faint injuries. I was terrified every time. But he only joked lazily, Your husband's tough, don't worry. I hated that recklessness. Still, I knew it was his way of protecting me. Finally, Louis grew impatient. One night, he cornered me alone. Sleepy, you belong to me. You always have. Ethan can't keep you. He doesn't deserve you. My stomach churned with nausea. But before I could respond, Ethan arrived. His voice was cold, soaked with rage. You think you're worthy? In that instant, I saw the man who had once stood covered in blood at my grave. Lewis panicked and pulled a knife. But Ethan disarmed him effortlessly, knocking him to the ground. Later, Grandpa personally exposed Lewis's crimes. The evidence Ethan had gathered was more than enough. Lewis was stripped of everything. I stood beside Ethan, watching the man who once destroyed me fall apart. At last, the shadow of my past life lifted. Afterward, peace returned. But I knew the cost. Without Ethan, I would have never survived either life. When I looked at him now, leaning lazily against the balcony railing smoking, the wind ruffling his shirt, I finally understood what it meant to love. He noticed my stare and raised an eyebrow. What? Want to scold me for smoking again? I walked over, snatched the cigarette, and crushed it out. Then I kissed him hard. His eyes widened, then darkened with hunger. Claire Shen, he rasped, voice hoarse, you really planning to tame this wolf? I smiled through tears. If I can handle you, I can handle anyone. He froze, then burst out laughing. His arms wrapped around me tightly. In that moment, I finally knew. No matter the storms, no matter the lives, I was his, and he was mine, forever.